Israel now stands accused of betraying Ukraine at the very moment when President Zelensky is helping Netanyahu by sharing his country's hard-earned expertise in fighting Iranian-made drones. Fearing a backlash from Vladimir Putin, Netanyahu has largely brushed aside Zelensky's claim that Russia is stealing Ukrainian grain, avoiding a direct clash with Moscow even as Kyiv cries foul over Russian theft. Israel is also facing allegations that it has helped Russia trade food grain that Ukraine says was stolen from its occupied territories, after reports that multiple cargoes suspected of carrying such grain have been unloaded at Israeli ports during the war. Ukraine has accused Israel of allowing grain that it says was stolen by Russia to be unloaded at Israeli ports, charging that cargoes from occupied Ukrainian territory are being quietly received despite Kyiv's objections. Ukraine's president has threatened to impose sanctions on anyone involved in these shipments, warning that individuals, companies, and intermediaries profiting from the trade in allegedly stolen grain will be held accountable by Kyiv. Kyiv maintains that these shipments have continued even after multiple appeals and formal protests to Israeli officials, arguing that its repeated warnings and diplomatic notes have so far failed to halt the traffic. Zelensky's warning has highlighted a deepening rift between the two nations amid their parallel wars, exposing growing frustration in Kyiv over Israel's stance and adding a new layer of tension to an already fragile relationship. A vessel named Panormitis entered Israel's Haifa Bay last week and remains anchored offshore, with Ukrainian officials alleging that it is carrying grain taken from Russian-occupied Ukrainian lands and pressing Israel not to let it unload. Details of the unfolding diplomatic tiff between Ukraine and Israel were laid out in a CNN article published on April 28, which described how the grain shipments have become a flashpoint in their relationship. Ukraine has said that the ship in question is carrying wheat stolen from territories occupied by Russia, accusing Moscow of looting grain from Ukrainian lands and then exporting it onward under false pretenses. Kyiv has claimed that this would be the second such shipment to dock and unload in Haifa this month, arguing that multiple cargoes of what it calls stolen grain have already been received at Israeli ports despite its protests. Zelensky said, and I quote, "In any normal country, purchasing stolen goods is an act that entails legal liability. This applies, in particular, to grain stolen by Russia. Another vessel carrying such grain has arrived at a port in Israel and is preparing to unload. This is not, and cannot be, legitimate business. The Israeli authorities cannot be unaware of which ships are arriving at the country's ports and what cargo they are carrying. Russia is systematically seizing grain on temporarily occupied Ukrainian land and organizing its export through individuals linked to the occupiers. Such schemes violate the laws of the State of Israel itself. Ukraine has taken all necessary steps through diplomatic channels to prevent such incidents. However, we see that yet another such vessel has not been stopped. I have instructed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine to inform all partners of our state about the situation. Based on information from our intelligence services, Ukraine is preparing a relevant sanctions package that will cover both those directly transporting this grain and the individuals and legal entities attempting to profit from this criminal scheme. We will also coordinate with European partners to ensure that the relevant individuals are included in European sanctions regimes. Ukraine counts on partnership and mutual respect with every state. We are genuinely working to enhance security, particularly in the Middle East region. We expect that the Israeli authorities will respect Ukraine and refrain from actions that undermine our bilateral relations." Unquote. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar accused Ukraine of engaging in what he called Twitter diplomacy, suggesting that serious matters between friendly states should not be conducted via social media outbursts and public posts. Saar also claimed that Ukraine had not yet submitted concrete evidence to support its allegation that the grain in question was stolen, arguing that allegations alone could not be treated as proof without formal documentation and legal cooperation. He further underlined that the contentious vessel Panormitis had not yet actually docked in Haifa, stressing that Israeli authorities were still examining the situation while the ship remained offshore. Since the war began in 2022, Kyiv has repeatedly accused Moscow of looting its agricultural resources, saying that Russian forces have systematically taken Ukrainian grain and other produce from occupied territories and pushed it into international markets. Israeli outlet Haaretz has reported that 4 shipments of illegal or allegedly stolen grain have already docked in Israel in 2026, a claim highlighted in coverage by CNN as part of the broader controversy over these cargoes. The report added that these controversial deliveries have been ongoing since 2023, with a total number of suspected grain shipments now crossing 30, underscoring how long this shadow trade has been in motion. Ukraine's foreign minister summoned Israel's envoy in Kyiv to lodge a formal protest over what he called a lack of adequate response from Israel to earlier complaints about ships carrying allegedly stolen grain. An Israeli official told CNN that Israel cannot simply seize the shipments without due process, stressing that any action must follow legal procedures and be based on verified evidence rather than accusations alone. The European Union has also weighed in, requesting information from Israeli authorities on the matter as it examines Ukraine's claims and considers the broader implications for sanctions and trade with Russia. An EU official said, quote, "We condemn all actions that help fund Russia's illegal war effort and circumvent EU sanctions, and remain ready to target such actions by listing individuals and entities in third countries if necessary." Israel-Ukraine ties have remained tense ever since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, with each new crisis adding strain to a relationship already marked by disagreements over the war and sanctions on Moscow. Israel has tried to keep channels of communication open with both Kyiv and Moscow, walking a careful line by providing humanitarian aid to Ukraine while avoiding the kind of overt military support that could provoke Russia. This latest controversy comes just weeks after Ukraine revealed that it was using its battle-tested drone and air defense expertise to assist partners in the Middle East, positioning itself as a key player in countering aerial threats in the region. Ukraine's hard-won expertise in drone warfare has been used to help counterattacks by Iranian-made Shahed drones, with Ukrainian specialists and technologies contributing to efforts to detect, intercept, and destroy these one-way attack UAVs. In recent weeks, Russia is reported to have sent multiple direct warnings to Israel concerning the situation involving Iran, signaling growing concern and heightened diplomatic tension between the two sides. Russia has repeatedly cautioned Israel that its actions could potentially trigger what it described as a major nuclear disaster within Iran, emphasizing the severe and far-reaching consequences of any escalation. These warnings from Russia, along with Benjamin Netanyahu's response to them, were reportedly covered by Channel 12 and later cited by the Times of Israel, shedding light on the behind-the-scenes developments. According to reports, Moscow had strongly objected to Israeli airstrikes being conducted in areas close to Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant, citing serious safety and geopolitical risks. Moscow further stated that Israel's military actions in the region were putting Russian experts as well as local civilians stationed at the plant in significant danger. Russia also highlighted that it had played a key role in partially constructing Iran's Bushehr nuclear facility and continues to assist in its ongoing operations and maintenance. Importantly, Russian officials warned that Israel's continued attacks in sensitive areas were not only risky but were also threatening to damage the broader bilateral relationship between Moscow and Tel Aviv. The Kremlin official said, quote, "You are placing our people in danger. This is a dangerous game that is likely to cause a major nuclear disaster, with grave implications for the Middle East. We call on you to stop," unquote. Due to the warning issued by Russia, the Israeli military reportedly altered its operating procedures in areas close to the Bushehr nuclear facility, indicating a shift in how it conducts missions near sensitive locations. The Israel Defense Forces clarified that it had previously been unaware of the potential dangers in the area and insisted that it had no intention whatsoever of causing harm to Russian personnel stationed there. Reports indicate that both Israel and the United States have carried out military strikes on Iranian targets located in and around the same region, contributing to rising tensions. An April 4th strike conducted near the Bushehr nuclear plant reportedly resulted in the death of an Iranian guard, highlighting the risks associated with operations in such a volatile zone. Following the incident, the chief of the International Atomic Energy Agency stated that there had been no recorded increase in radiation levels, offering some reassurance about nuclear safety.